Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Dinal Sakari. I run product marketing for Cloud MDM at Informatica. And joining me today is Joshua Minton, who's our senior sales consultant and expert on Cloud MDM. We have a jam-packed session for you today where we'll be talking through the challenges and steps to getting a single customer view, particularly focusing on how you might be interacting and visualizing your interaction with your customers in Salesforce. So let's go straight to today's agenda. This year, the Cloud MDM team has been really focusing a lot around the business challenges that you might face to get a single customer view in Salesforce, particularly focusing on how you might want to visualize these relationships for cross-sell and upsell opportunities. And today, what we're going to be talking about is these challenges, as well as taking you through how Cloud MDM can help you manage these relationships, get a single customer view, and in particular, focus on how you can manage hierarchies within Salesforce. Josh will be taking us through a demonstration of Cloud MDM, and then we'll be answering any questions you might have on the product, as well as on how it might fit in with your existing Informatica integration solution. So at Informatica, we found that the first wave of SaaS application adoption mainly focused on getting cloud apps up and running quite quickly. The first wave of adoption focused mostly on front office applications, and immediately two challenges emerged. How do you get more timely and relevant information to users so they adopt the new tools? And how do you connect these front office apps to back office systems of record like CRM or ERP, for example? One of the new approaches and one of the issues that were introduced were that once you've gotten the data in together and you've got a single view or you've got your integration in place, how do you then start to rationalize all these different variations of the truth and get that single customer view? Now, in particular, we'll be focusing on getting that single view in Salesforce, but the challenges that you face when you're looking at cloud data management is, one, how to get those disconnected systems together. Two, how do you manage the data and ensure that your end users can trust it? And lastly, three, how do you manage inefficient processes? So once you've got a trusted system and you've got that trusted view in Salesforce, how do you ensure that your end users are actually using it correctly, that they're actually filling in information correctly, and that you've got that CRM adoption? Now, as I mentioned, our focus for today will be around that single customer view, but in particular, how to visualize these relationships. So how can you visualize your hierarchies? Now, the single customer view challenge can come about from having multiple back office systems and having every system have a different version of the truth of your customer. Now, if you're a business that has grown either through acquisition or you're a global business, you might find that one of the challenges you face is that you've got multiple Salesforce environments. And much like having multiple back office systems, each one of these environments has a different version of the truth about your customer, and as well a different business process or a different forecast and a different product that you're selling. Now, obviously, on top of that, not only will you have multiple Salesforce environments, but you've also got multiple systems that are each tracking something slightly different about your customer. You either have an ERP system that's tracking financial information. You might be using a service management solution like Remedy, in which case each system is really good at tracking that piece of information. However, when you start to try and bring them all together, you start to find that there are lots of different variations of that customer information. And also, if you're a business that has multiple products and all your customers are in multiple locations, or your customer type tends to vary from B2B to B2C, it can be very complex to visualize, and it can be very difficult to track these customer relationships. So how do you ensure that with these multiple versions of the truth, complex relationships and different product types, that you can actually rationale all this information to get that single customer view? Now, obviously, everyone having a different system of truth or a different relationship with your customer in your company. So legal might have a different way of visualizing that relationship. Marketing have different interests in your data. And sales, of course, might be managing sales cycles. there tends to be a lack of ownership of data if there are any issues. It tends to be someone else's problem. So that is another challenge that a lot of businesses face when trying to get a single customer view. Now, all of that results in poor reporting, which obviously means that as a business, if you can't start to build reports to aggregate all your different versions of the truth or all your information about the customer, you're missing out on opportunities to segment the data for marketing purposes, or to look back on existing sales or historical sales to see how well a certain product was doing or a certain region was doing. And also, forecasting tends to be a guessing game. And overall, this results in no ability to cross-sell, upsell. So you're not really utilizing the information that you have in your Salesforce environment on your customer for potential cross-sell or other avenues of revenue. And these problems are not just suffered by your salespeople in Salesforce, they're actually suffered by everyone in the business. With Salesforce being so pervasive now, it has so many different types of users who all want to look at their customer differently. All of them want to look at the complete customer, but want to see it through a different lens, so to speak. Your VP of sales wants to have a look at existing forecasts and opportunities to upsell and cross-sell. The CMO wants to be able to segment the existing data to plan new marketing strategies. And sales ops suffers from the fact that although your business might have a clear view of who the account managers are, it might be difficult with changing territories and with the complexity of your different products to manage these all in one environment. Support need to think about delivery of where the service might be located, and also when mapping back to sales, they want to ensure that they're supporting the customers correctly. And then you start to look at the IT side, and their considerations are, well, how do I leverage the existing systems that I have, and how do I ensure that I'm supporting the business correctly with the back office systems as well as with their Salesforce environment? So these multiple business units and multiple buyers can all be considered different lenses or different focuses for your business. So legal will have a different view of your customer, finance will have a different interaction, and sales and marketing and support might be using Salesforce to track the customer interaction overall. Now, each one of these units will have a different logic of truth that will help them map the relationship. So for the legal hierarchy, this might represent a more traditional Dun & Bradstreet type view, or Hoover's, in which case they might use this to negotiate ELA structures with the company or work on how they might work with compliance and contracts. Finance will have a different system of truth, so they might be looking into your ERP systems, or they might be purchasing data from Bloomberg or Thomson Reuters, in which case the way they visualize the customer will be slightly different, and they'll want to get that view and get that tied in with legal in some way. But probably most importantly for your selling purposes, sales and marketing will have their own view. So this is where the sales lens comes into focus, and it will be definitely different from the legal hierarchy, but neither may be more important than the other, it's just different. They both have their applications and companies they need to access, and they need to get that visualization to start to target and sell to these customers adequately. They'll want to see what products are already in place, the size of the business, etc. And last but not least, your delivery and support will be tapping into databases or information from applications like Remedy or Service Cloud. And they'll want to visualize where a product is located or where they need to service that customer in particular. So each one of these business units will have a different view and have a different way that they're tracking information on the customer. But it's only really when you start to tie in all four categories together that you start to get that single view. And even better is if you can get that single view in Salesforce, an application where most of your customer relationship management occurs, and start to tap into that database for future upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Now, in reality, however, when you have tried in the past possibly to try and get that visualization or get that view in Salesforce, it can be quite a difficult task. The native capabilities in Salesforce is quite a manual process to create these hierarchies. You've only got 1 or 2 levels that you can work with, the parent-child. And it's quite static. It cannot be changed very easily. So as your business grows, or if you're dealing with customers that are franchises, for example, or if your products are changing, or if you're acquiring other products as a business, that needs to be dynamic and it needs to match how you're interacting with your customers. There's a limitation to Salesforce accounts only, so the other users like legal, finance, and possibly your support team might not get to benefit from these visualizations in Salesforce. So you're only suiting one view of your customer rather than getting a single view by aggregating all the different types of interactions. You can only use one source of hierarchy, which means that when you start to factor in the various Dun & Bradstreet or SAP hierarchy that you might have in place, or hierarchies that you might be picking up from how you're marketing to your customers or your products, or if you want to customize it, you're really limited in how many different sources you can use. And particularly, you can only use one hierarchy per account. Now, we know in reality that while we might be selling to a specific account continuously the same way, how we might be billing this account and how our contracts might be working with this account versus how we're supporting them can vary. So being able to get that different view and different interaction in play, so to get a hybrid hierarchy, is key to getting that single view. So many of you might either be existing Informatica customers, so you might not be completely familiar with the Cloud MDM solution. So what I'm going to do is take you through Informatica Cloud MDM and then drill down into the hierarchy management solution. So our data quality and data management solution for Salesforce is called Cloud MDM, and this particularly sits on the Force.com platform. This not only helps users to get the most out of their existing integrations by building that trusted view, but it also maintains the integrity of the data in your Salesforce environment that can then be pushed out to other applications or systems that you're using. Now, in this example, we've got Hydrogen as a customer, and what they used Cloud MDM for was to cleanse and consolidate data from their back office systems to then visualize how they're interacting with their customers in a single view. Now, before we go into the demo today, what you'll note is that before we start to consolidate and relate the data and show you the hierarchy functionality, we would have gone through a cleansing process where we standardized the existing data in Salesforce, so taking all the fields that might be used in filters or in reports to create a standard for each one of those fields. Then we deduplicate any duplicates that are in the system to ensure that you've got a clean foundation to start off with. Then we start to integrate from the back office systems, and this is where the MDM aspect starts to kick in. When you start to bring in the data from the back office systems, the Cloud MDM solution can take each and every system and actually match the fields that matter to create that single view and create the master record. And it's from these master records that we can start to build relationships between accounts to visualize a hierarchy and how you're interacting with your customer. So for Cloud MDM, the primary focus for today will be around hierarchy management and consolidation. So what you'll see actually in the demo today is we'll be showing you bringing in data from the likes of Dun & Bradstreet, SAP, and other Salesforce environments, consolidating these various account names and various differences with the accounts and picking up the key information from each back office system, bringing it together to create that consolidated view, but then tapping into the hierarchy functionality in Cloud MDM to give you an ultimate parent account, headquarters, subsidiaries for reporting purposes. And it's when you start to use these hierarchies that you can start to utilize your dashboards in Salesforce to get a rolled up view of your customer and start to look into white spacing, how you're interacting with the customer, cross-sell and upsell opportunities, and existing relationships that you might want to leverage. And it's only when you start to do that in Salesforce that you can start to consider who are your best customers, who are the customers that you're going to offer the gold services to, who are the customers that you need to work harder on and start to sell other products to. So before we go into the demo, I'm going to just show you some screenshots of the product in action, and then we'll open it up then I'll hand over to Josh for the demo itself, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So the first thing you're going to see today, before we start to tap into the hierarchies, is we're going to take you through the consolidation process. But after that, after we've done that, what we'll show you is how the fuzzy matching capability within Cloud MDM will match accounts together. So regardless of the account name, if there are subsidiaries that might have different locations, in this case, for example, we've got McDonald's restaurants as an account, and one of the subsidiaries is McCafe. So you'll be able to use the fuzzy matching capability to relate these accounts together. And most importantly, if there are these odd accounts that you know are part of an overall hierarchy or overall organization, you can use the Cloud MDM fuzzy search capabilities to start to steward how you manage that data and actually find these records and tie them in together. What we'll also be showing you is that with Cloud MDM hierarchy management, you can actually start to get different views of these hierarchies. So we talked about the finance team, the legal team, sales and marketing and services all having different back office systems that they want to track and different interactions with the customer. Well, now you can start to use a drop-down menu to see these different interactions without actually altering the underlying data. So you can get these different views, but most importantly, you can actually get a hybrid view where you can combine the two together. And for those of you who are administrators of Salesforce or the data stewards of your company, we'll also show you how it's easy and flexible to create and change hierarchies in Salesforce using Cloud MDM. And it's a Cloud MDM functionality that allows you to add or remove accounts, to alter the way that the accounts build up to each other or roll up to each other based on how you as a business interact with your customers. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Josh Minton, who will take us through a demo of the Cloud MDM product.
All right, thank you, Dina. So one of the first things to note as we talk about Cloud MDM is that it creates two brand new functionalities inside of Salesforce.com. And the first is a 3-tier staging environment in the background that helps us master that data. The second is that we deploy a comprehensive business logic engine inside of that staging environment. And that business logic engine includes a probabilistic fuzzy matching engine. That allows you to aggregate common records together. It also allows you to remove and prevent duplicates from entering your database. We also have a consolidation engine that allows you to remediate multiple sources of data into a single enriched view of your customer. Additionally, there's advanced hierarchy management, as we just saw with Dina's slide deck, that allows you to create and maintain multiple lenses of your customers. And through these lenses, you can then drive aggregate data. And if you consider how many operational silos you have in your company, and that each of these silos may have multiple lenses through which they engage with your customers, it has been nearly impossible to define and make these actionable in Salesforce until now with Cloud MDM. So Cloud MDM is a comprehensive data management application. It's built 100% in Force.com technology. It's a managed package, so when you download it, it contains everything you would expect from a managed package: Apex code, Visual Force code, custom objects and fields, etc. And it does live completely inside of Salesforce.com. So with this particular example, we're starting off with the assumption that Cloud MDM has cleaned and deduplicated our customer records into a single view of these accounts. And now we want to bring in multiple sources of data into this Cloud MDM staging environment, which again lives inside of Salesforce. So for this particular example, we're bringing in some data from SAP, from Remedyforce, and from Dun & Bradstreet, and we want to prioritize specific fields on each of these data sources, which are going to be assimilated to that master record that our users are going to see. And this will give us not only a single view of the customer, but one that has been enriched by the best information contained amongst all the data sources inside our entire systems architecture. So you'll notice these three charts at the bottom have no data present. The first one is the SAP, the second one is the Remedyforce, and the third one is the Dun & Bradstreet. I'm going to navigate now to one of our account records here in the database, which I believe shows a great example of how Cloud MDM works so effectively to help you create this single enriched view. So now here I am at the single view of this McDonald's headquarters account record in Salesforce, and I'm going to click this Cloud MDM Consolidated View button, and this is going to give us visibility into how the product uses that three-tier data structure to master our information. So I'm clicking Consolidated View, and when this loads on your screen, you'll notice we actually have three bands of information here. In the top band, we have the account. In the second band, we have the master record that represents the best of all of our data. And down here at the surface, as I scroll down, we have this universe of staging data. And you'll notice in that first column, there are multiple different sources of that staging data, along with the unique field attributes for each of those records. So a really good example of how the consolidation logic works is if we look at the account staging record here. This actually was created when the Salesforce account was created, and you'll notice all the way over to the right under the installed products column, we have a fryer. So according to the Salesforce account record, this customer owns a fryer as their primary product. If you'll scan up just about 4 or 5 lines, you'll notice that the SAP record we've brought in actually says that they own a dishwasher as well. Now, from a corporate perspective, we know that the SAP data is more valuable, so that we can prioritize that specific field element for that specific data source over all the other data sources that are inside of our staging environment. So when that consolidation logic runs, it not only takes this information from SAP and writes it over to the master record, but it also turns around and enriches that single view of the customer. So when I close this view out and we navigate back to that original account record, I'm going to scroll down, and you'll notice that we now have that data presented in Salesforce, single point of view that has been enriched by the best of all of the back end of our data that we have available. So that actually leads us into the advanced hierarchy piece. Everything we've discussed, the three-tier staging environment, the fuzzy logic engine, creating that single view of the customer that has been enriched by the consolidation engine, all of this functionality creates the toolkit by which we can now create and manage advanced hierarchies in Salesforce. So traditionally, hierarchy management in Salesforce has been limited to the rudimentary lookup relationship between account and parent account, which is very limited in scope and function. In fact, just looking at this simple report here, if we were to try and do a roll-up opportunity summary report that's been filtered by billing country, if we don't have that hierarchy information in place and is maintained on a consistent basis, it's nearly impossible to keep these hierarchies in place. And because these relationships are fairly volatile, they tend to change rapidly over a short period of time. So at worst, you could have done all this work to put these hierarchies in place, and 6 months from now, you have erroneous information that's now driving the wrong business decisions. So with Cloud MDM, it allows us to actually define multiple views of these hierarchies from that staging environment, and then keep that information synchronized going forward. So each of those data sources we saw in the previous screen could contain its own version of a hierarchy, which then feeds these lenses that show us the different clusters of our customer, breaking down those business silos and allowing us to see the white space so that we can now cross-sell and upsell and gain visibility to the complete customer from that single point of view. I'm going to navigate back to this McDonald's account record. And you'll notice that we're actually at the top node here, and we know that because when I scroll down, I actually have a great Visual Force tree component that shows me exactly where I am in this hierarchy structure. I can click into any of these. It actually takes me right to the account I just clicked. And when I scroll down, it also becomes functional. So it shows me exactly where I am in that hierarchy tree. And it allows us to feed that information through the reporting engine native to Salesforce so that when I refresh a report as simple as this, we now get a much more mature, active, and synchronized view of that customer cluster. But even more importantly, Cloud MDM gives us this capability to create these versatile lenses of hierarchies that are dynamic and, again, help us tear down those walls between the business silos that locked away our potential to create cross-sell and upsell opportunities within our customers. So I'm going to navigate over to a second example here. And in this particular one, this is a restaurant chain that we have existing in this Salesforce account. And I'm going to expand the account hierarchy here. We can see we have a beautiful account structure here. This may represent our sales account structure with which we engage our internal resources to manage this particular cluster of customers. Even better, when I click the Show Details button down here, I actually drive aggregate data based off this particular lens of customer. So if I'm a sales account manager and I'm trying to do a opportunity here for Ocean Prime in Atlanta, it may make sense for me to look at this account hierarchy from a sales perspective and find out what other opportunities are actually closed and open. And so I can sit down with those account managers and come up with a more strategic management plan for this cluster of companies, allowing us the economies of scale to engage this customer and cross-sell and upsell to the best of the company's potential. But what if I want to look at them from a different perspective? So I'm going to choose the legal perspective from this hierarchy. You'll note we actually have 4 separate hierarchies in here, each representing different bits of data. In this particular example, this is going to be more the traditional Dun & Bradstreet view. So you can see we got a much more linear view of how this customer looks. And again, data aggregate is driven based off of that particular lens. But what if I wanted to look at it from more of a household perspective? So this may be my customer's business accounts lined up right next to his personal accounts, so that when I expand this, I not only have visibility into the restaurants themselves, but I can also see his private and personal bank accounts right next to that. And again, a difference of view allows us to have the white space to cross-sell and upsell based off of different aggregate information. And then the final view would be in regards to this hierarchy for the geography. We expand this out. We can see that looks really good. What if we wanted to edit that down? Cloud MDM actually allows you to define specific capabilities for your data stewards, the people that you trust with defining your customer relationship inside of the application itself. So not only can we automate by bringing in data into the back end and the staging environment and allowing that to be remediated up to the top view of this account structure, we can now open up that capability for our approved users to get in and manage and edit as well. So you notice that I can actually get in here. I can add and remove nodes as well. I can move these around. If I wanted to move this to a central territory, I can very easily drag and drop that choice, or I can just cancel out altogether. The idea is that we've now opened up an entire capability on both the front and the back end to manage these clusters of relationships. And in our opinion, in my opinion, the cardinal sin of any hierarchy management or trying to define these relationships between customers is that sales and service people are typically one of the last ones to be consulted, when in reality they understand the relationship structure between these customers better than almost anyone. And Cloud MDM now gives us the capability to line all of those hierarchies up side by side so that we can start to create dynamic, vibrant, hybrid views that will define our customers going forward.
Great, thanks very much, Josh. That's great to see all that in action. We've got a couple of questions that have been coming in regarding the architecture of the Cloud MDM solution. Someone's asked, can you explain the architecture of Informatica Cloud MDM? We get that it's a Force.com application, but what additional components does Informatica provide?
Great question. So I'm going to actually navigate over to the back end of Salesforce here in the setup menu. All of our Salesforce admins on the call should understand what this view is very well. This is the schema builder inside of Salesforce. And what you're seeing on your screen here are the 3 primary customer object records inside of Salesforce: accounts, leads, and contacts. Now, accounts were always intended to be a global view object inside of Force.com. So if I go up here, I gain visibility into all the contacts, opportunities, cases, activities, etc., related to that specific account. I like to compare it to moving to high ground when you're hunting. You can actually gain visibility into the entire valley, and that's exactly what the account object was meant to do. Cloud MDM enhances and enriches this model. So as I zoom out here, you'll notice that we actually have two custom objects here that are the primary workhorse of Cloud MDM, the bean and the master bean. Those two objects comprise our staging environment inside of the database. And the bean, don't get fooled by the name, it has nothing to do with Java beans. It's just a simple generic holder of data, regardless of if it's lead or contact data, account data, any custom object in Salesforce, any third party or backend. All it is a different flavor of data, a different data source to Cloud MDM. And so within this staging environment, this is where we deploy that complete business logic package. All of these beans are then funneled into the fuzzy matching engine. They are aggregated underneath common master beans or master record, which is itself uniquely related to that global view account structure. And so here, very clearly in the architecture, we can see how Cloud MDM has created a three-tier staging environment by which we master data. And everything that happens in terms of Cloud MDM happens underneath the surface of Salesforce, including even the duplicate flagging. So you'll notice that that's actually hanging right off of a Cloud MDM custom object there. So we've created a complete mastering environment inside of Salesforce that lies underneath these single sources, single views of these customers that your users will be engaging with. Excellent question.
Great. We also have another question regarding, first actually, let's talk about how it ties in with the Informatica Cloud integration product. A lot of the people on the call are existing cloud integration customers, and they'd like to understand how does the Cloud MDM solution work with their existing integration product?
Another excellent question. So they are two separate products, but they are very complementary. So you can tell by this example we have up on the screen here, in the middle we've got this great big corporate firewall there. And the way that Informatica Cloud data integration works is you obviously download a secure agent, and it is behind your firewall, so none of your data ever leaves unless you choose for it to. And this secure agent actually holds the connections between all of your different data systems, and the logic and the username, et cetera, is actually stored up here in the cloud. So we reference that information as metadata. We bring that down to the secure agent, and we pull from the mainframe into Salesforce, for example. And we do that through the Salesforce.com Web Services API. And that's represented by these blue boxes here, basically a blow-up of the exact relationship we just looked at. So let's take a closer look at that. Up here on the top, we've got almost exactly the same structure we just looked at in the schema. Leads, contacts, accounts, custom objects, all represented by the solid green up here. Anything in the light green, however, is an attribute of Force.com that all Salesforce customers enjoy, including the Cloud MDM custom objects, those the bean and the master bean. Everything in yellow is what Cloud MDM brings into Salesforce that never existed before. So a staging environment, that complete business logic, comprehensive fuzzy engine that includes duplicate remediation, consolidation, and enrichment of data. And we even take that consistent business logic and apply that to lead, contact, account entry so that we seal off those entry points, preventing duplicates from getting into the system in the first place. And even more importantly, for our customers who use lead management inside of Salesforce, we also exercise that fuzzy matching engine at the point of lead conversion, allowing us to kind of slow down and gain visibility into the obtuse connections between leads and accounts in the database that standard Salesforce functionality just quite frankly doesn't do a good enough job on.
Great. So we've got a lot of questions coming in. It's obviously the time for a Q&A, and we've already asked some, but we'll try and get as many answered as possible. We've had quite a few other questions regarding how the Cloud MDM solution fits in with the on-premise MDM Cyprian product that Informatica has in place. Now, I know you're an expert on Cloud MDM, Josh, and I know we've got some customers who are utilizing both systems. Are you able to kind of talk us through that a bit?
Sure. So I don't have a whole lot of information on that. I do know that long-term safe harbor, of course, the ultimate goal is to move those two products as close together as possible. Right now, Cloud MDM works exclusively inside of the Force.com environment.
And we've also got some questions regarding licensing, quite a few questions actually regarding licensing. One of the questions, I can answer this, has been around if I'm an Informatica Cloud integration customer, how can is this Cloud MDM an add-on? How do I purchase it? How does it tie in with it? I can answer that this is a separate product that you purchase along with your cloud integration solution, and the licensing is up on our website. So there are two versions out there at the moment. The basic edition, which pretty much covers your standard deduplication and standardization capabilities and focuses on one data source. But then the next edition from that actually starts to factor in consolidation and hierarchies, and that's where your integration can come into play from multiple back-office systems. So that's how the licensing works. It's user-based licensing, and much like the cloud integration solution, it is a subscription service. We also have some questions on the data model. In traditional MDM, we have the facility to build our own data model. Is it also possible in Cloud MDM, or does it come with the Force.com model only? Josh, can you answer that?
The answer is that Cloud MDM is built on the Force.com model. Salesforce itself is an application built on the Force.com model. So Cloud MDM does need a Force.com license in order to execute, and we actually have to bring information into Force.com as records in order to master them. But you do not necessarily need a Salesforce.com license. So we can certainly address any questions beyond that offline off the call, but that, yes, you absolutely have to have a Force.com license at least to use Cloud MDM.
Can the records that you are mastering in Salesforce, can we be working with custom objects as well, or are we only able to manage accounts and contacts?
So we can absolutely use custom objects. The consolidation logic currently only executes up to that account record. Of course, Safe Harbor in the immediate future will be opening that up for a more dynamic view of multiple different objects as well. So we can deduplicate and clean custom objects. We can include custom objects underneath the aggregation functionality. But currently, the consolidation logic works up to the account object in Salesforce only.
Great. We've also got some questions about the steps that you took before you ran the consolidation job. So can you just talk us through, I know you talked it through briefly when you were mentioning the architecture. Can you just talk us through the general steps for Cloud MDM? So, if we've got the data in Salesforce, or we're just integrating the data in Salesforce, what does the Cloud MDM solution take you through?
Great. Yeah, actually, I can probably show this a little bit better. I have a great slide here. If you want to pass me the ball back, I would love to show that.
Yep, I can do that.
So you should be seeing a slide that shows three separate beans at the bottom. So these would represent different sources of data for very similar information. The first one is from Oracle eBusiness. The second one would be from Dun & Bradstreet. And the third one represents a Salesforce account record. And you can tell by the customer information we have very similar attributes of data there amongst these three accounts. And also notice at the bottom, three different hierarchy structures. So not only do we have our Oracle structure, we also have a Dun & Bradstreet, more traditional structure, and then we have the Salesforce account structure with the parent ID and regular ID. So what happens is when you bring these beans into the back end, they have to be pushed through that aggregation engine that includes the probabilistic fuzzy matching. We define on the back end exactly what the calibration settings are. So how much value do we place on each of these fields? What do we treat if one record has has a null value in a field and the other one has something populated. What is the threshold, of the point threshold at which we determine a match or even a duplicate? Are those equal? Should there be a delta? There are a lot of choices we can use to calibrate the system into a razor-sharp edge that matches our particular data needs inside of our Salesforce org. So with this example, when we compare the first two beans there together, here, you can see that they were compared with a confidence score of 92.72. If we assume that our duplicate and matching threshold are both set at 90 points, obviously those two beans would be aggregated underneath a common master record. Additionally, we define on that data source level what field attributes we want to be consolidated up to that master. So you notice we have attributes from both of these beans here that represent the master data that we've brought in into the back end. Next, we compare this third bean to the first two, and we can see the confidence score there is actually much lower than 90 points. So what would happen is that that third bean would actually remain aggregated underneath its master bean, and those would actually be separate accounts that your user would engage from that single point of view at the top. The beautiful thing about these is because we can retain those multiple sources of data at the bottom, we can actually synchronize to that level into the staging environment, which gives us a lot more leverage of maintaining synchronizations with back-end systems, feeding brand new information into Salesforce, and potentially even pulling that out for use in other places. I like to compare this to a river of data moving underneath the surface of Salesforce, while you're, from a user's perspective, they're engaging a single view of these customers, completely consistent and duplicate-free, that has been enriched by all this universe of back-end data. And finally, the coup de grace comes in being able to take those multiple views of hierarchies and feed those up and overlay those on top of these accounts so that we can now build complex dynamic structures of account clusters inside of Salesforce and then drive aggregate data through those lenses. It's a very versatile architecture we've created inside of Salesforce that allows you to get a much more simplistic view from your user's perspective, but from an architectural perspective, you have a lot of complexity that you can build around and maintain.
So, Josh, am I right in saying that this structure, this approach of the bean and the master bean means that you're not actually altering or deleting existing account data or contact data in Salesforce, so you've got a staging area, is that right?
That is correct. So you control the impacts on your data, and primarily they come in a couple different places. You can choose whether to overwrite, for example, country information if you want to standardize that. You can choose whether you want to actually merge these records together once they've been flagged as duplicates, and you can choose whether you want to overwrite information from these master bean records to that account structure, as we saw earlier with the SAP example of the product. So it is absolutely possible for you to maintain these two separate data structures and they never overwrite or edit information or merge records, or you can actually tie those together, and once you're confident with the calibration settings, it now becomes a comprehensive data mastering strategy inside of your Salesforce org.
So some other questions that were being asked, going back to the hierarchies actually, is can we define hierarchies other than geographic and household, for example? So what other type of hierarchies can be defined? What sources of data can we use to define these different hierarchies?
So the easy answer is any. So what happens with Cloud MDM is you can create your own data sources in the back end on the bean level, and each of those data sources can contain its own hierarchy structure. So you have a lot of leverage with how you want to create these views for your customers as well as your users as well when they engage with that. So if you wanted to create a pink and polka dot hierarchy, you absolutely could do that. Or you could do something as structural as data.com or Dun & Bradstreet. That you're very creative and the choice is yours.
So we're getting so many questions in, by the way, and in the interest of time, we won't be able to answer all of them, but we will try and ensure that we get back to you in person. We've got what I'll do is just throw in two more questions in there, and then we move on to the comparisons between the native hierarchy in Salesforce and the Cloud MDM hierarchy. But we've also got questions about stewardship. So who is the person who has the skill set who can maintain Cloud MDM in Salesforce, and what sort of tips and tricks or what sort of approaches have we put in place to make their lives easier?
That's a great question. So Cloud MDM is maintained completely through the setup menu. It's actually custom settings in the develop section in the setup menu. So any Salesforce administrator or someone with knowledge of how to navigate the setup menu can actually maintain Cloud MDM going forward. Additionally, we're starting to see this bifurcation of the Salesforce administrator and what we call the data steward. So the data steward may be the role that's responsible for maintaining the quality of data and defining the relationships between accounts and who owns those accounts inside of the database. That role, as well as it can be given additional privileges. For example, merging master data together, consolidating information, editing those hierarchies. That can all be defined within the profiles of Cloud MDM. Because Cloud MDM is actually built on Force.com, it uses the same exact security model that Salesforce uses. That's the profile, the role hierarchy, the record sharing capabilities within the database. But we also introduce another level of security in terms of what can you do, what can this user do with master data inside of Force.com. So it's a very secure application, and you can completely lock down who has the potential and ability to interact with your master data inside of the organization. Sometimes that'll be the same person, by the way, the administrator / data steward. What we're seeing in larger organizations is that tends to be a separated role.
Okay, and I said that I would only do one more question, but there's been quite a few and quite good ones actually coming in, so I do want to utilize your time here, Josh. But one of the questions has been, the most helpful output out of this exercise will be to sync up this MDM data after validation to fix the source, so that we can correct the input to the Salesforce itself. Is that possible? So essentially, can you take all this lovely clean data that you've made in Salesforce, can you send it back out to your back office systems to clean up the source?
Yeah, the answer is a resounding yes. Of course, that's one of the great leverage points. Because we have that staging environment, it not only holds its association to the single view in Salesforce, it can also retain the external ID to your back-end system. And if you have those two IDs existing on the same record, there is a universe of possibility with what you can do. Not only can you continue to bring in information from other systems, think like service requests or whatever that may be, it's always going to go and flow to the customer Salesforce, but you can also utilize that information to clean up your back-end data as well. And this Cloud MDM Bean object will give you the leverage to be able to do that regardless of where you are in the phase.
That's great. So even though it's on the Force.com platform and we're utilizing all the wonderful features of Salesforce, you still essentially have a Cloud MDM solution that can go back and clean your back office systems as well.
You can utilize the information to clean your back office systems. That's correct.
Fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to give you a bit of a breather before we move on to the next one. I can answer this question. The question is about does the Cloud MDM solution support person accounts as well? And the answer is yes. It was in a previous release. We can actually use all the capabilities that you see on the accounts and the contacts can be utilized for person accounts. And the way the Cloud MDM solution treats these person accounts is very similarly to a tie-in between how you might manage your accounts and how you might want manage your contacts. So we're able to build hierarchies out of it. You're able to deduplicate, cleanse, and you're able to bring in data from back office systems to consolidate as well. So on that note, in the interest of time, I'm just going to share with you the comparisons, just as a summary, between the native Salesforce Cloud MDM the native Salesforce hierarchies and Cloud MDM hierarchies. And Josh, I've given you a bit of a break to take a breather, but can you take us through the differences between the two? Because a lot of people might be already utilizing their Salesforce hierarchies, and because it's in Salesforce, they want to know, well, what is the difference? Why would I opt for the Cloud MDM hierarchy capability versus my existing Salesforce?
Sure, it's a great question. I think we probably touched visually on a lot of these data points as we walk through the demo, but it's good to call them out. So the multidimensional hierarchy, obviously the example of the 4 different hierarchies we had, geographical, household, etc., shows the versatility of being able to look through multiple lenses, not just being relegated to the Salesforce parent ID inside of the database, which is limited to a specific amount of records in a data set and a specific amount of nodes that it will go deep. The Cloud MDM hierarchies, because it's defined from that versatile staging environment, gives us a lot more leverage in the database to create much more interesting views of our customers that are fully functional, by the way. And that leads us into the next piece. We want to set up a system that's going to automatically take information that's being fed into that staging environment and consolidate that up the chain to remediate that and to automatically track those parent, children, and ultimate parents, which are the 3 triangulation points you need to manage any type of hierarchy in any database. With Cloud MDM, we can synchronize that data automatically and continue to allow that to feed naturally. And then, of course, aggregating data that's related to that information is extremely important. From a marketing perspective, you want to know the leads that are involved in a specific customer cluster. From a sales management perspective, opportunity pipeline and the contacts that you're engaged with are obviously very important. So the ability to drive that information into an aggregate view based on these different lenses allows us to tear down those business silos that quite frankly stymie and regress our ability to engage with our customers in the way that they need to be engaged with today, not tomorrow. And then I think we saw the drag and drop support. So a data steward who has the approved permissions could actually move those account structures around within the multiple views of those hierarchies as they see fit, giving you a lot of versatility both on the ground and on the back end as we're pulling information in to remediate that view of those customers. Fuzzy searching for accounts. I don't think we saw this in the example, but we want to add a node or add an account into a structure. We actually open up that fuzzy matching engine to be able to search across all of the staging environment to bring back maybe obtuse connections that wouldn't exist if we're using standard Salesforce search. And then the ability to just simply clone nodes and put those into multiple hierarchies as well. I don't have an example of that we can show, but that's a fairly right-click copy kind of operation there. Very, very powerful.
So next steps, if you want to learn more about Informatica Cloud MDM, please do visit our website on informaticacloud.com/MDM. There you'll be able to see all the features broken down and some key videos for you to learn a bit more about Cloud MDM and a chance to get in touch with us. Follow us on Twitter. We're always sharing new updates and new information on our Twitter feed and any future webinars that we might be running. And also for you Salesforce customers out there, the Salesforce Customer Tour, Company Tour is in full swing, so do meet us at the Chicago event as well as at London. We will have a stand there. Come by the stand. We'll show you some demos. We'll take you through the full Informatica Cloud suite. And if you have any projects that you're working on, our experts will be there at the stand to help you out. Also, before we go, join us at the Informatica World event in Las Vegas. It's a great chance to view lots of speakers from actual Informatica Cloud and Informatica on-premise customers. There's a lot of breakdown sessions on how the Cloud MDM and the on-premise MDM solution tie in together. We had quite a few questions about that. So there will be a session all about MDM and how the full universal MDM suite can help you get a better view of your customer and better manage your data. And also we'll have guest speakers of Cloud MDM customers who are utilizing the hierarchy functionality already along with the on-premise MDM solution to manage interactions with their customers because their customers are franchises. So they'll be using the Informatica Cloud MDM solution and talking you through that. So thank you very much for joining us today. I do apologize if we weren't able to get to your question, but we will be replying personally and ensuring that you get your answers out there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.